Hi, Sam here from Roberts Geospatial. Today I'm going to show you how to import multispectral satellite data into a scene database in ProRaster Scientific manually. So we're going to look at a little bit of spot data. So I have some spot data here. It's a TIFF file. Let's just drag and drop that onto ProRaster Scientific and see what happens. So you can see that it's creating a PPRC file. This is your overview pyramid cache file. And we always have to have these cache files for rasters in ProRaster. So it's done. Here it is. Now you can immediately see that there's a problem because around the outside we have these 0 values. Now they're null values. They're invalid cells. So the TIFF file is not recognizing, it hasn't recorded that 0 is the null value. So we're going to want to fix that. Let's just have a look at the fields and bands. So we have one field called field, and then we have 4 bands called red, green, blue, and alpha. Now ProRaster doesn't know that these bands are red, green, blue, and alpha. It's just guessing. There's no information in the TIFF file that tells you what these bands are. In fact, these bands are red, green, blue, and near infrared. So a good idea to start off with then is to pre-process this data using the raster source editor. So let's do that. So let's get rid of that. Add a new raster source. I'm going to give it the same name as my TIFF file. Hit the tick. Okay. Now you need to then browse to the TIFF file and put it in your raster source, or you can just drag and drop. So firstly, I'm going to clean to get rid of my existing PPRC file because that's got zeros in it, and the zeros have been combined with the actual data and averaged into the data, and so we're going to have invalid data in the overview pyramid. So let's get rid of it. Okay, so that's done. Now I'm going to go into the advanced button here, and under here it's got TIFF driver settings. Specify the null value if missing or to override. Now the value is going to be 0, so that's easy. Let's just hit OK. Now I'm going to prepare this raster. I'm going to favor quality. I always do that when I prepare manually. It just means that you get smaller files, lossless compression, hit prepare button. And what it's going to do now is build the PPRC file again. And you'll notice that it comes out a little bit smaller because it's using a better compression algorithm. And it's also going to compute statistics. And so we'll see a statistics file pop up as well, 2 of them in fact, and that's always handy to have. So now it's computing statistics. Here's our PPRC file, about 77 megabytes. It was about 80 before, or sorry, it was about 100 before. So there's our statistics. Hit OK. So now if we create a new algorithm, or let's say a new red, green, blue algorithm, go to the red, choose my new raster source, and you can see that I no longer have the zeros around the outside, so we've cleaned that up, and then we need to go and assign the data appropriately. So let's go red, green, and blue. That doesn't look too bad. Probably our data transforms invalid, so let's use a linear transform. Go to manual clip. I'll hit this button, fit the range to the data in the map. It's telling me what the range is, 123 to 2452. So let's put in a clipping range here that might be more appropriate, that'll give us a better contrast. And there's our red, green, blue algorithm. Okay. So we've prepared our data. Over here you can see that we've got our TIFF file, we have our PPRC file, which is our overview pyramid, we have our STTX file, which is our statistics, and we have a GHX file, that's for map info, and that also has statistics in it. But we don't use those in ProRaster. So let's create a new scene database. Okay, so let's go add scenes to new database, and we'll choose by manual entry. So here's my new database. I'm going to call it Spot 7. Hit OK. And now, let me take this out of it for the time being. Now we have this complicated looking dialog, which is our manual entry import dialog. So the first thing we need to do is to set variables for all of these things here: platform, bird, family, etc., etc. Now, there may not be defaults, appropriate defaults, so you may have to set them yourself. Now, these variables are important when we import Landsat and Sentinel-2 data. It allows the system to determine whether scenes are spectrally compatible. But when you're doing it yourself manually, well, really the onus is on you to determine whether scenes are spectrally compatible. So firstly, the platform, and Spot's in there, so we'll choose Spot. Bird, we know this is Spot 7. We don't have Spot 7, so I'll hit New, and then this becomes editable, so I'll call Spot 7, and you need to edit these things immediately. And then once you've typed in the name and the description, the description's entirely optional, but you can put it in. Then hit the plus sign, and your bird will then be assigned to that. So let's put in a new family. We'll just call this wrong key, Spot, and this will just be nothing, so we'll add that in. Tier, so we don't know what tier this is, and it doesn't really matter, so let's just hit tier 1, which is high quality. Instrument, we can probably just choose something like TM, because that's representative of what we're looking, or maybe it's not really appropriate. Let's go new, so let's say this is Spot TM, and we'll just delete that, hit OK. Processing, we don't know what kind of processing it is. It probably doesn't matter what we choose. Let's just say it's collection 1, similar to Landsat. Processing level, again, we've got no idea. Let's just say it's standard. And the product, again, we don't know whether it's top of atmosphere, bottom of atmosphere, really have no idea what it is. Just going to say top of atmosphere. Path and row, again, I don't have that information, so I'm not going to put that in. Cloud, we don't have that metadata. I did notice there was a little bit of cloud in that scene, so let's just say 2. And then we need the acquisition time. Good idea to put this in. This needs to go in, and I think from the date, 2019, July the 23rd. So I'll put that in, 2019, July the 23rd, and we'll just say it was 12 o'clock. So now we've filled in all of that scene metadata information, or as much as we can, and that's enough. So we've already so now we need to drag and drop or browse to the files that we need to include in our scene assembly virtual raster. Now I've already created a raster source for this, so I'm just going to use the raster source, and that's the one file that will go into this scene. It's a multi-banded file, so you select that file in the list and it's reflected down here, and then you can choose the field and the band. There's only one field, but we've got 4 bands. So let's choose the first band, which ProRaster is telling us is red. Well, in fact, it actually is red. So now we need to assign a spectral assignment, spectral band assignment to that field, and they're down here. So firstly, we need the spectral type. So is it digital numbers? Is it top of atmosphere, reflectance or radiance? Is it bottom of atmosphere, or is it thermal data, or is it a masking channel? Well, we don't really know. It's probably top of atmosphere, digital numbers. Probably reflectance. So I'm going to choose spectral, top of atmosphere, reflectance, digital numbers. Now this one happens to be the red band, so we'll choose red. Now I need to add this band to my scene assembly virtual raster. So I add it in and it pops up here. So here's our virtual raster. It's got spectral, top of atmosphere, reflectance digital numbers. That's our field. And then our first band is red. Let's go to the next one, which is green. So we choose green, add that one in. And the next one, which is blue, and I know that's blue, so we'll add that one in. And then the fourth band, which is alpha, but we know it's not alpha. In fact, it's near infrared. So we'll add that one in. So I can leave it like that, but usually I have it in wavelength order. So let's move blue up to the top and move green up a bit. So we've got blue, green, red, and then near infrared. And that's all I need to do for this particular scene. Everything is defined. Let's hit OK. It brings up the scene database. Now I can render this scene. Natural color, red, green, blue. Bam, there's our scene. So that's good. Let's create a scene product from that. And we'll add it to a new product database. So this is going to be spot 7. Hit OK. Come into here and I'll do an index calculation. And you can see that even though we only have 4 bands, we actually can compute quite a lot of indexes. So we have fire, we have burnt area index, there's a couple of soil indexes, agriculture. Under vegetation, we have lots and lots of indexes available because most vegetation indexes use the red, green, blue and near infrared bands. So we can compute normalized difference vegetation index, for example. Hit OK, display that, and we'll just change it to an appropriate color table and an appropriate color mapping. So there's our NDVI for this spot data. So that's how to import some spot 7 data manually into a scene database and create an NDVI product from it. Thanks for watching.